Hey all, Josh, is severe weather here, and we've got some active weather coming here in the central and eastern United States over the next couple of weeks. Get ready to buckle up. We are in for some drastic weather changes. All right, folks, so let's go ahead and look at the weekend storm that I started talking about here yesterday. And this is going to be potentially very interesting for that Monday morning drive here in New York City. So what's going to happen is we've got a storm that I've talked about across the Great Lakes developing later on tonight into the day tomorrow. That one looked like maybe it was going to try and sneak into Pennsylvania, Western New York, and farther south and east, but it's going to fade. We're going to have high pressure and control, and that's going to kind of shear out the system so that it doesn't do a whole lot once we get into the coastal Northeast. However, a second wave, this is something the models have now been picking up on more and more, and have shown agreement on, is going to be cutting across the Great Lakes here on Sunday and getting into the Northeast later Sunday and Sunday night. The area I've got in purple, I think, has the best chance for a plowable snowfall. So the Poconos, Catskills, potentially into the New York City metro area as we get into early in the day on Monday as low pressure forms off the coast. And I'm going to go more into that. This system should start to fade, though, when it gets offshore later in the day on Monday, and will be long gone after that. Here's the European model, and this is for the day today. You can see we've got a front draped across the mid-south and into the Carolinas here. Unfortunately, we're not going to see a whole lot of clearing behind that front, so just more moisture riding up and over that front for early in the day on Friday. Staying wet, damp, dreary, dank, you name it here across the Carolinas, Tennessee Valley. Here's our next storm system, though, that I mentioned. Could bring some snow to the north side of Chicago, southern Wisconsin. This is during the day Friday and then getting into Michigan later Friday and Friday night. But watch it kind of move eastward and shear out here early on Saturday. This is not to minimize potentially some problems in west central Pennsylvania. Could have a little bit of snow early Saturday, even a bit of ice across the Laurel Highlands, western Maryland. But you can see this large area of high pressure, 1,041 millibars. That's cold, dry air. That is going to kind of squeeze this system out and leave it so that it doesn't do anything here in the Northeast. I thought maybe a few days ago that chance was there, even all the way into Northern Virginia, but now it's becoming pretty apparent that that's not going to occur. Now we've got another wave coming through here in Oklahoma. The weather in this area doesn't really get any better. If anything, it's just going to get chillier. So the warm spell that we've had here in North Carolina getting ready to come to an end very quickly and abruptly. As we get into the weekend, more rain coming across from northwest to southeast. But here's our next wave. You can see this kink in the upper level thickness, which is the difference in air mass from the ground up. The more we see that, the more unsettled it looks like it'll be. So Sunday morning, some snow moving into parts of Ontario and then starting to spread into western and central New York by midday Sunday. As we get later into Sunday, we can see that this upper level low is diving southeast and energizing. So snow rates may start picking up in the Poconos and in central and even upstate New York here Sunday night. And right now, when we get down to places like Allentown, New York City, we're going to have some mixing. So snow is probably not going to stick a whole lot, especially the lower elevations. But as we get overnight, you can see rates start picking up in the Delaware Valley, and we're getting close to the 5 boroughs here. Actually, I'm going to zoom in on that for you guys. And you can see this area of heavier snow rates is getting very close to New York City at 7 a.m. Monday morning, right at sunrise. The big question mark is it going to fade in the morning, or is the fact that we've got a pretty well pronounced upper level feature here going to lead to maybe a surprise band of heavy snow causing all kinds of issues in New York and right in Long Island, southwestern Connecticut Monday morning? So I think that surprise element is certainly there. We can look at some other models. The GFS, I know I've bashed it quite a bit and it should be bashed, but as we get closer to the event, it's going to start showing things that other models are showing. So when I go up to maps on weatherbell.com, we go to GFS, you guys can see that there's a lot more enhancement. In fact, there's kind of a closed off circulation aloft. And this is 7 a.m. Monday. And then as we get to 10 a.m. on Monday, and you guys can see that snow rates are pretty darn hard here on the Long Island Sound, across Long Island, southern Connecticut, and the 5 boroughs. This is very much on the table here. If low pressure gets cranking here, we've got a strong disturbance aloft. We could see several inches of snow falling in parts of the New York City metro. When I say several, I mean 4 or 5 inches. So that is something I'm going to be watching for you guys here. Storm is going to be kicking out of here, though, and it's going to get chilly very quickly here on Tuesday. Cold air coming all the way down into the southeast, seeping down the eastern side of the Appalachian mountain chain. Let me zoom back out for you guys here across the eastern U.S. The next storm, we've talked about it. I'll get more into specifics on that in just a minute here. Gathering strength over the plains on Tuesday, but you see this drop in thicknesses. That is, of course, colder air aloft and high pressure nosing all the way down into North Florida. It's going to be really miserable here in the mid-Atlantic states behind this storm, and quite cold here in New England for the first half of next week. As this next storm comes across into that cold air, notice that this high pressure block here kind of shunts everything off into the mid-Atlantic region. And then as we get later into Thursday and Friday, we could have yet another messy setup here across the interior of the Northeast Thursday night, Friday. And if you look at the European and you're in the Northeast, I'm sorry, it went on to the run that doesn't go out that far. Let's go back to the Zierzy for you guys. If you guys look across here into Wednesday and Thursday, check this out. Potentially a major winter storm here with low pressure forming off of the Delmarva Peninsula here Thursday night. And Thursday night, Friday morning, it's really cranking here across the interior Northeast. So that's something I'm going to watch for you guys. I don't think New York City's seeing snow when we get to Friday morning. I think by then it's warm enough to be all rain. But the interior Northeast could see a major winter weather event when we get into later next week. Right around this time next week, it'll start to take shape, followed by a lot colder air at the end of the week. We've talked about the cold. I'm not going to drill that down quite a bit for you guys. But so that's what I'm watching. Storm number 1, Great Lakes, and then falls apart Friday night. Storm number 2, potentially a little surprise here for the Northeast. Then cold and dry, but quite cloudy here in the mid-Atlantic. It's going to be pretty ugly here in the Carolinas. And then big storm with severe weather down south, spreading eastward from the Great Lakes and into a much colder air mass in the Northeast. That cold air doesn't just scour out of here. It's going to linger quite a bit. Could cause some big time issues here as we get to Thursday and Friday. So stay tuned when we get to that. All right, so talked about that storm. The next one here could be a big time weather maker as we get into next week. Big time threat for severe weather, widespread threat for, I think, some tornadoes. I'm not going to say a high risk of strong tornadoes at this point, not a repeat of a couple weeks ago yet, but the areas that were under the gun before are unfortunately under the gun again. I do think this is going to be a big deal for the Mississippi Delta, maybe northern Louisiana, all the way into the western parts of Tennessee and the boot heel of Missouri. What will happen is cyclogenesis, storm system forms in eastern Colorado on Monday. Then we get the Gulf of Mexico moisture involved. Heights start dropping, so we look at intensifying wind and then wind shear, and we could see some isolated severe weather before daybreak on Tuesday. So late Monday night, probably midnight or so, getting into Oklahoma City, Ardmore, maybe on the northeast side of Dallas. But as we get into the day, Tuesday, a decent chance that we'll have ongoing severe weather across the Arklatex region, maybe down close to Houston and Beaumont. And then Tuesday afternoon, I think we'll see some supercells forming ahead of a big line of storms. We could have some stronger tornadoes somewhere in this region. Not saying an EF4, EF5 yet at this point, but something we're going to have to watch. And then I think Tuesday night, that's when I'm most concerned about people's safety, because we're looking at nighttime storms, rural areas potentially, and more population in this area than back in here. So Jackson, maybe even getting close to Tuscaloosa, Memphis, and even Jackson, Tennessee. That's the area I'm most concerned about. And this area in here is certainly no stranger to strong tornadoes in the month of December. We saw it last year. Do I think we'll have a repeat of that? I don't quite think so at this point. But again, we're looking at 5-6 days out. So that, of course, could change. The Storm Prediction Center has highlighted an area of potential severe weather in the Red River Valley here, Monday night mainly. And then Tuesday, a bigger area of severe weather across the area that I've been talking about here for a couple of days, even all the way down to like Baton Rouge and Lafayette, Louisiana, with a higher risk of severe weather from Alexandria on up to about Pine Bluff and into the Mississippi Delta Valley, Mississippi River Delta area. And that will probably be later Tuesday and into Tuesday evening, I think, would be when we see the maximum of this severe weather. They don't have anything highlighted beyond that into Wednesday and Thursday, but in the southeast, we're going to have to watch for heavy storms and potential severe weather as well. So we're going to talk more about that here in the next couple of days. Again, I do think that we're definitely going to see a significant snowfall here. I am certainly looking at Long Island at this point, and I did want to ask you guys where you thought maybe Billy Joel got his weather predictions from, because he is from Long Island. The answer to that, of course, is the Weather Almanac. All right. Thanks, everybody. I make myself laugh sometimes. My wife doesn't like it that much, though. Appreciate y'all's watching my videos. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Invite some friends as well. You know, we're getting into a pattern of some very drastic weather changes, and you're going to want to follow the latest with me here. Also, I'll have several updates a day as the weather gets worse. On the Facebook page, facebook.com/Josh's Severe WX. WX is shorthand for weather. And appreciate everybody's time today. We're going to be talking more about these storms in the next couple of days. We'll talk soon. Everybody have a great Thursday. Take care and God bless.